It is 10:06 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast, 7:06 on the West Coast. You are watching and listening to Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research, with Mike King in Las Vegas at 7:07 in the morning, and Charles Moskowitz in beautiful downtown Boston. Well, maybe suburban Boston. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good. Well, it's a hot July, I'll tell you. It's hot here it's hot in Vegas, but the market is hot also.
Yeah, what is it, about 125 out there?
Not far from it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
At least here we've had a bunch of storms, and we're back into the 70s.
Yeah.
But we had over a week of over 90, 95 every day, and it didn't even cool off at night. And it was almost like being in Washington or Virginia in the summer, where it's so humid, there's just no relief.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, when I was at ESPN in Bristol, of course, that western part of Connecticut gets no air. And,
Right.
At least you're close to the water. So normally you should get some breeze.
Yeah.
But, oh, man. But, yeah, stocks are going crazy. We're getting, inching towards that 16,000 mark. You think, wow.
Well, the Dow has never been higher.
Yeah.
Well, the Dow has had gained 634 points through Friday, up 4.3%, qualifying as one of the best Julys ever, and certainly in the top 10. And if it goes certainly above 6%, it would be probably number one.
Yeah, whatever happened to that go away in May, huh? It's not happening
Yeah.
this year. And there's a company. There's a company that I totally forgot about, guys, and they apparently had a good earnings report, and that was Texas Instruments. I didn't even know they were still in business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they have a big office in the Philippines, I believe.
Okay.
Big factory there. And today we have Texas Gulf Energy as a guest.
Oh, good. Okay.
Half past the hour.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds good. Yeah, Craig Crawford again? That would be good. That would be very good. Well, I think the news, according to the Bloomberg wire here, as we kind of continue with surging stocks and stuff, in the computer world, Cisco decided to buy SourceFire for $2.7 billion. Now, apparently, SourceFire must be a cyber security company. $2.7 billion. Done.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, Greg, that's not even a big deal anymore.
Yeah.
$2.7 billion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's walk around money for you, Charles. Oh.
Well, no.
I know what you mean.
In the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
You see these deals all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
You see primarily of late, you've seen it in the biotech area. As a matter of fact, I've said it before. You see a biotech deal every couple of days.
Yeah.
Where somebody's trying to buy a pipeline for a new drug. There was one company, Celdex, that we were in for a while from the $9 area. Well, actually, we began around 6 or 7, and traded it a couple of times up to and through 15. It's currently 20 right now.
Yeah.
And another company that we still hold in the portfolio, same type of company. And by that, what I mean is, the biggest problem with biotech firms, excuse me, is that they're always looking for money. And so the stocks get, very diluted because they're always coming in. Well, Celdex and this other one, Array, ARRY, which we've traded options on continuously and made a ton of money on, but we've had a normal position in the big account of 1,000 shares at $4 and low change. Well, they were the same as Celdex in that they had very big partners
Okay.
with with plenty of money, and they were both in stage 3 trials for their drugs. So Celldex performed, and we're away from that now. But Array had news overnight, I guess, that they have a conference call today to discuss the end points of their double-blind study on their drug 502. It's an allergic asthma-related product.
Ooh, okay.
And, that's all well and fine, but their partner on it is Amgen.
Oh,
and so from
okay.
the financing side and the distribution side of the drug, should it get approved, you don't get a lot better setup than that. As I said, we're in the stock a little over $4. It's trading right now at $6.44 to $6.43, and it's up 87 cents on the day. And that's substantial. I mean, on a percentage basis, we're up 15%. Yesterday, when the stock closed at 5.5, it was up 12% then. So we're getting nice moves in some of these things that we just have. We do a lot of trading,
yeah,
but we also do a fair amount of buy and hold.
There you go. It got my eye though on the Cisco deal. They valued this other company, SourceFire, at 137 times earnings. I've never heard of that.
Oh,
I mean,
sure you have. Sure you have.
We have?
Yeah. What do you think
Where?
the PE is on Amazon?
I have no clue.
They make no money.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Stock's at a new all-time high, over $300. Never been here before.
Yeah. Okay.
SourceFire is trading at 75.5, up 16.40.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's nice, but again, sometimes you get these deals 137 times earnings, maybe because they haven't really hit critical mass in the distribution of their product.
Okay. Yeah.
And a company like Cisco comes in and says, okay, we really like your product. We're going to take it to market and include it in all of our routers, for example.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, with no further outlays for R&D,
they're there.
all of a sudden it goes from 137 times earnings to 13.7 times
there you
earnings.
go. Okay, I got you.
Because of the leverage that a company like Cisco gets because of its name and because of its history.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Another newsy thing today off Bloomberg was that apparently Ben Bernanke talked about originally the September pulling away a little bit, and apparently there is a number out there now that it's he's going to continue buying $65 billion versus $85 billion. We haven't seen any movement in the in the Dow Jones though after the announcement. I mean, it's still moving along.
And frankly, what we have seen is a pop-up again in rates. Not big, but the 10-year was trading in the 2.4 area, 2.43 on Thursday afternoon and Friday morning, and it's back to 252.
Mm-hmm.
So, you are seeing it on the bond side of the market.
Well, as good as things are, I know you and Mike always talk about Freeport McMoran.
Yep.
Man, they were at the other side of a Muhammad Ali punch, down 32%. Of course, they're primarily copper and gold, and copper and gold the last few weeks have been going down. So, woo, tough quarter for them.
Well, what's interesting about that, Greg, is the fact that China came out and said, we're drawing the line in the sand at 7% growth.
Yeah.
And so, copper has rallied. Gold has rallied all by itself. I mean, it's down 370 today at 1332. But
right.
Mike was talking about it last week as, bottoming, and it was in the 1250 area, 1260 area. So, we get a little bit of a pop there. Plus, they do something kind of weird in, I don't know if it's weird, but they do something unusual in China, and that is because they use so much copper, they go in, and these companies go in, and these builders go in, and they buy up copper, and the government kind of refinances that to fund them. And so, if 7 is the bottom line, and they're shooting for 8, and you know that they're a completely manipulated economy, you can see the copper and stuff start to move here again pretty well just on that type of demand.
Okay.
Now, two of the Fab Five, the big producers of ores.
Okay.
Which is POSCO of Korea, PKX, and Rio, which are the leaders. They've jumped above their 50-day moving averages. Now, like 2 weeks ago on the show, they were substantially lower. They were making bottoms. They were 7-8% lower. They've had a tremendous rally in the last 2 weeks.
Now, Mike, is Rio also a Korean company?
No, Rio is Australian.
No. They're Aussie.
BHP
Okay.
is Australian. Every country has a major producer.
Interesting. Okay.
There's something else you have to remember about the Freeport-McMoRan, Greg, and that is that everybody poo-pooed their entry into another resource market, which was oil, and at $90 or $92 or $95, everybody was poo-pooing it. Up here at 108, not so much.
Right, yeah. Brilliant move, guys. Oh.
Well, Vale is the Brazilian heavy producer, Vale, and it's gotten back to the 50-day moving average from being nowhere.
Yeah.
So
and by the way,
and VALE are back to the 50s, whereas PKX and Rio have catapulted above, headed for the 200.
Yeah, and just to alert people about it, tomorrow we have one of the biggest players in that mining and production arena has earnings tomorrow, Caterpillar.
Ooh, yeah.
And Apple today after the close, but relative to, building and mining and heavy construction.
Well, it's all about earnings right now, as we're in the middle of earnings season. And the earnings are ho-hum. They're not great. They're just lackluster. Nothing special on the earnings. We haven't had anything really sensational.
But, the other side of that coin relative to some of these bigger ones is Caterpillar's gotten destroyed. I mean, price-wise.
Same with Deere. Look at John Deere. The same thing.
Yeah. And so, not great earnings are a problem with Caterpillar at 110. Down at 86, I'm guessing not so much.
But it's holding the 50-day moving average, and John Deere is right at it. So they're a key.
The John Deere can come out of here from this $84 area and be $90 without really much effort at all.
And they probably will. No doubt. The one thing, gosh, Mike, I know you've been talking about it for 7 or 8 years or so on how things change, in this world. And I think back to Polaroid, I think back to Kodak, and the Market Watch from Wall Street talking about Radio Shack. Their margins are declining, continue to decline. Boy, that just seems like that's passe, and It's just like they're just kind of slowly going away.
They had an announcement in the last week or so about doing away with some portion of that store within a store kind of thing relative to mobile phones.
Yeah. Well, and as soon as mobile phones become kind of a commodity, if you will. What was that I saw today that BlackBerry, their new phone, all of a sudden is going to be dropping to $49 from $199? Are you kidding me? I might even go that route. I mean, that's not a bad phone. It's not a great phone, but hey, for that price.
There are people who won't buy anything but.
I know, and you like BlackBerry.
No, I like the stock.
Our attorney likes BlackBerry. I mean, he just he won't go with anything else. I mean, that's just something he just really likes. And
well, it's funny because if you recall, in the beginning, don't want to sound so biblical, but in the beginning, when BlackBerry was just coming to market, lawyers were the biggest segment of their customer base.
Really? That's interesting.
The need to be in contact and the need to be able to actually answer
Yep.
A question was, head and shoulders above. You have to remember, when BlackBerry came out, there weren't really any smartphones out there.
Yeah.
And if you recall, the BlackBerry came out originally, and this is, 100 years ago, as a pager that had a keyboard that you could actually send a text back. And so lawyers were the biggest portion of the installed base as it related to to the product.
Interesting. Yes, I didn't know the background on that. That's very cool. That's very cool. Interesting. Okay. Well, it's kind of the professional box, if you will. It's I was just shocked to see that all of a sudden the prices dropped to that. I'm just waiting for that to happen to Samsung's S4, and I'm going to dive in. I think my 3 or 4 year old droid is about ready to buy the farm. But it's just technology changes, and as much as I've spent time in Radio Shack over the years, and you guys have talked about it. I mean, everybody seems to have something that is in that Radio Shack store now. Whether it's a Best Buy or whether it's even a normal department store, Walmart, for goodness sakes, has got a lot of stuff that used to be in Radio Shack. So,
by the way, just for the listeners' information, I just put out a text to sell half of the array at the market.
Ooh, okay.
We paid $4.79 for it. We're going to sell 500 and hold 500, and we're doing it at $6.59.
Cool. Well, Charles, how do we get your text, by the way?
You send the word updates, 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 to 69302.
All right, and Mike.
So we take roughly a 2 points on. 2 points on a $4.79 stock, which is certainly a nice percentage return.
Sure.
Huge.
We make way
to go, Charles.
We make $1,000, and we still own half the position.
Wow. Oh man, good job.
Well, that's the whole point with balance. Having a stock that goes up unbalances you as much as having a stock that goes down. I mean, we start these positions with very specific monetary amounts.
Right.
This is a $100,000 account. If we make $50,000, we're up about 45. But if we made a big percent, we still make the same size investments as initial investments, because to continuously roll the money up, and this is especially important on the option side, it's like going double or nothing. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you're going to get caught. And when you get caught, you want to be able to control your risk through 2 main avenues.
Right.
The first is balance,
Right.
and the second is to not get an outsized position in anything,
Right.
no matter how good or bad. And so, we put on a $5,000 position. We just took 3,500 or 3,400 out of that $5,000 position, and we still have 3,400 in that position, to continue if it goes back to the upside. But if it stops here, we sold some, but this is all the Princeton theory: balance and regulating your trades.
Perfect. Yeah. And are you you're doing the conference call tomorrow, I take it?
We're doing the conference call tomorrow. Last week we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. There were a limited number of people who were actually on the call. I, in fact, had trouble getting into the system for some reason and had to use my cell phone. And I got a half a dozen calls after the call was over. I dialed the number, it just rang, and then it stopped, and it wouldn't let me in. So, the calls are gaining traction, and, I really want to stress, it's sort of like AA. You can listen and you can go, but you don't have to speak. but if you want to speak, you can. And the calls are open for not only discussion about what we're doing, but, completely, out of that realm. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? I own this in my account. How should I handle the, so it's really open-ended as to both time and content. It's been running in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 minutes. So there is participation. There are questions being asked. And, if we continue to grow at this rate, I'm going to guess that we're going to start to have a Friday afternoon one, because Fridays, like Monday mornings, are very important for seeing how you want to be positioned over the weekend.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. And Michael, how do we get the newsletter?
Well, you can just call me at 702-650-3000 or call Charles, or you can email us at mike@princetonresearch.com.
And that's a real easy way to do it. Yep.
We're certainly accessible.
Yep.
And we might have very exciting news next week, although next Tuesday, I'll be in Singapore.
Oh, God.
Traveling around Asia.
Oh, man.
Opening an office in Singapore.
What?
As the area is growing so fast.
Very cool.
Next week, Target will be our guest. And you guys will have to handle Target. That's the Australian oil company drilling in Texas, doing a great job.
Yeah, I remember them.
And in the meantime...
Well, wait a minute. Tell us about this new office in Singapore. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just that the Singapore is becoming a mecca, a major investment center. For China, Malaysia. People don't always think of China. They don't think of Malaysia, which is growing very fast, and Indonesia. And of course, the Philippines. The Philippines is growing 5.5% to 6% this year. Huge growth.
Yeah, but where is that compared to the American economy? Oh, don't go there. I'm sorry. I'm just joking.
Compared to where we are?
What are we at, 2%? If that? Oh, man.
Barely.
Yeah, barely.
Like 1.5%.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's amazing. So they're around 5. China's at 7. Yikes.
Well, China's not at 7.
Well, or
China's not going to go below 7.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, I know. Whatever.
I don't think you can trust. Honestly, I've never heard any of the big analysts or the big international guys ever say anything but, China's great, but I don't really trust their numbers.
Yeah, those are the government numbers. Yeah, I know. It's so weird. It's okay. But I mean, the Singapore thing just absolutely fascinates me. So, So you think, Mike, that's going to be what, kind of like the Wall Street of the Pacific Rim?
Well, it already is.
It is. Okay, well.
Yes.
See, they just don't get any attention over there, and they should. Yeah.
Well, they get attention from the Asians.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, how in the world did I know you're an expert, in that part of the world, but I mean, people need to know. I mean, how you got into deciding to open up over there. I think it's fascinating.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. It sure is. And we have Craig Crawford calling in a few minutes from Texas Gulf Energy. He's been a guest on our show many times. And it's hard in America to find skilled labor. This Texas Gulf specializes in finding skilled labor. This is the biggest problem, where Asia doesn't have that problem. They can find the people they need, whereas we can't. Now, can you imagine that? And here we have this free school system, whereas in Asia, you got to pay for your education. You got to pay for kindergarten in most countries, whereas here, well, let's welcome Craig Crawford.
Good morning.
Good morning. We were just talking about the scarcity of labor in America compared to Asia, and how tough it is to find people. So how are you doing finding people?
Oh, we have a big challenge in the United States finding skilled craft and supervision right now because of the huge demand in the downstream, midstream, and upstream oil and gas industry. But we've had great success finding qualified craftsmen and supervision outside the United States. What we're doing is working to bring those people into the United States so that under legal visas, so that we can put them to work.
That's great. Mike was just talking about the Asian ability, I guess, to find more qualified workers. And obviously, we understand the whole educational system and the discipline is just so totally different over there that they're really genuinely committed. And I guess you probably find that in some of your Philippine workers and folks from Singapore as well.
Well, the Philippines and Thailand produce some very talented craft workers. These guys in the Philippines in particular, a lot of folks don't know that English is their legal language. They're all taught English whenever they start school. So that, besides the fact that they're hard workers, the fact that they are taught English from early in their school careers makes it a lot easier for us to transition them into our advanced behavioral-based safety programs, teach them about plant-specific safety in the different facilities that we put them to work in. But we have, listen, I don't want to diminish at all the quality of the American worker. The American worker is number one in the world. We love putting Americans to work. There just aren't enough of them, and there aren't enough of them making the decision to be skilled craft workers in today's world. So the demand in the Houston area alone, in the ship channel area of Houston, Texas, we believe there's going to be a shortage of 15 to 25,000 skilled craftsmen here in the next 12 to 18 months. That's a big gap.
Wow.
So how are you doing with new contracts? How are you handling this shortage?
Well, we're working with our immigration attorneys to bring in additional skilled craftsmen under guest worker visas, and we're continuing to recruit American workers, and we're continuing to negotiate and land new contracts to provide construction services to our clients here in the United States. And that's moving along at a very nice pace. We expect to be able to announce some additional new contracts in the next 90 days.
That's great. So the president's immigration stance has not hurt you at all?
It has definitely impacted us and
Okay.
slowed down the speed with which we can move and obtain the visas. But it is, we've continued to work with the system, and we believe we see a light at the end of the tunnel.
And hopefully it's not a train, right?
And it's not a train, right?
That's what we hope.
Oh,
We all
man.
hope.
That's that's the old something's got to get done in D.C. I mean, it just has to get done in D.C. This has just gotten totally ridiculous. So, I think we talked about this in a perfect world. How many jobs could you fill today if you had the ability to do it?
We see. I'm not sure what the number is today. If I had to say today, I'd say there's probably 500 jobs looking for people today.
Wow.
Over the next 90 days, it's probably 2,000 or 3,000. Obviously, over the next year to 18 months, we believe it's a number north of 10,000 people. And,
Well, how long does it take to become a welder or a millwright?
Oh, it takes
how
a long
long?
time. It takes a lot of. You cannot just take a guy. We can't take a guy today and say we're going to train you to be a welder, and have a welder in 6 months or a year or 2 years. Welding is as much art as it is science, and you have to have the right kind of demeanor. They have to be able to stand the heat and the cold. They've got to be able to crunch into narrow spaces. And I'm talking about our top-ranked combination welders.
And they have to have a steady hand.
And they got to have a steady hand, steady eye. Generally 5 to 10 years of experience before you can take them to
Really?
the next step. Yep.
One would think that welding is simple.
It is not simple.
Wow.
It is not simple. Structural welding, you can have somebody doing a structural weld, in a month. Combination welding with high alloy metals in a piping environment where you're doing 100% X-ray and you can't have any inclusions, absolutely no flaws in those welds, because we're running at very high pressure and very high risk environments. You have to have years and years of training and background.
Boy, that's wild.
Generally, the Filipinos that we bring in and the Filipinos that we bring in average 8 to 10 years of experience before we bring them in as welders, in their craft as a welder or a millwright. The Americans that we have are all 20-year experience guys, but part of that is because of the lack of new blood coming into the American craftsman ranks.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet. Yeah.
Because today, in today's world, even though a welder may make twice as much money as a fresh college graduate, in today's world there's kind of a social thing that says everybody ought to go to college. And, I submit to you that we're not all college material, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's some guys that are really great welders that don't need a college degree. Some guys that are really great millwrights that don't need a college degree.
Yeah.
What?
And the pendulum is swinging in the opposite direction here, too, from being so excessive. Not everybody wants to come out of college owing $100,000.
Or more.
Exactly right.
Or more. Yeah, it was
Unbelievable.
we had a young gal in here last night who's going to be going on to the University of Missouri. And, luckily for her, she's got a grandmother living in Columbia. So, she can live there. But, that saves $20,000 a year that she'd have to get a loan on. So, it's amazing stuff. What could somebody make as a millwright, as a welder? You talk about all this experience. Obviously, I would imagine they get paid for their experience.
Yep. What you will see is that a experienced craftsman, millwright, or welder, or pipe fitter, or boilermaker can, on the oil and gas industry, see a wage between $32 and $35 an hour, and average work week of probably 50 hours a week. So that's a wage that looks like $65,000 or $75,000 a year, real fast.
It ain't bad.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Wow.
And if they're asked to travel, which right, a lot of them are going to have to travel because of the demands in North Dakota and in the Gulf Coast and all across the United States. These oil and gas facilities aren't in convenient locations necessarily, so they're all eligible to for the most part, get paid some per diem whenever they're traveling.
Sure.
And per diem is the amount that gets paid, that helps them pay for their hotel bill, pays their hotel bill, and so they can make an extra $60 to $100 a day, depending on what part of the country they're in. Just on
it amazed me when we first started seeing the migration to the Dakotas for that part of the industry, that they couldn't build houses fast enough, and guys were buying or renting big RVs to travel in and have a place to live when they got there.
Yep. And they'll use their per diem to pay their RV payment.
Yeah.
Wow, that's phenomenal, guys. Yeah, it really is. When you talk about, like some projects, maybe in the next 90 days, are we getting any new refineries, or is that still way up in the air?
I'm not aware of any new refineries in the United States that are being built. But what's happening, and part of that is because of all the environmental permitting issues.
You can't get permitting,
but
and you can't throw them up overnight.
That's exactly right. But what is happening is the reconstruction, expansion, and debottlenecking of existing refineries and midstream oil and gas facilities. And, you're going to see all the majors expanding the capacity of their refineries through debottlenecking, where they go through and expand, trim the pumps, add additional pumping, add size to their FCC, their fluidic catalytic cracking units, which is what makes the high octane gasoline. And as they expand those units and debottleneck them, it takes $1 billion here and there to do that. Big major projects.
Just minor, yeah.
There goes those billions again.
I know.
A billion here, a billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
Oh yeah, it's just lunch money, right? Oh man, amazing, absolutely amazing. So what we have is going to be expanded. Do you see, say, in the next 5 years, any major construction of new refineries, or are we still going to be where we are?
Yeah, I don't think under the current administration that you would have much luck getting a new refinery built. I mean, clearly we need pipeline capacity to move supply
right
to the refineries that exist, and we're having resistance from our current administration.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd find them cooperative in the permitting process to add new refineries. So I would say I would be doubtful that anybody would be successful in getting a new refinery built in the United States. But there are a lot of refineries. I think the last time I counted, there were 170 or 175 refineries in the United States. There's a lot of capacity in those refineries if we expand them. The reality is, in the northeastern part of the United States, they're shutting them down. They're tearing down one of the old Sunoco Eagle Point refineries right now because of issues around continued operating permits.
Oh, you've got to be kidding. And that's where they really desperately need it, is the Northeast.
That's what, in New England, they're already short of automobile gasoline, automobile diesel, and they're shutting down a refinery in that region. So,
well, in Europe, what they're doing is selling carbon credits. These companies can buy carbon credits to pay for the problem that they have with emissions. And I don't think that has really developed as well as it has in Europe here in America, but that's forthcoming. It will be coming. If you look at a little company, CLNO is the symbol. It's gone from 0.5 cent to 30 cents, trading at 1/4 right now. And that's what they're doing. They're making a product that garners carbon credits. So that's I think that will be forthcoming.
Does Al Gore run the company? I'm sorry. I shouldn't be political. Okay. Hey, well, in that same vein, Craig, you need to hear this too. We just got a press release from Tesla, and Tesla is opening 2 charging stations in the state of Florida, and one is going to be right here in Port St. Lucie, and they're going to have 8 charging stations, and it's going to be in St. Lucie West, or right off of, a few blocks off of I-95. And so it's, they say, 120 miles north of Miami, 150 miles from Daytona. And Fort Myers is, over on the other side of the state, south of Tampa. So it's kind of interesting that Tesla is now starting to sell cars in Tampa Bay area. But the supercharge stations are going to be up and running very soon. So Tesla, which I guess, Charles, is that one of the few of these types of cars that's making it? I mean, it's a high-end car, but...
Well, it is and it isn't. What's the price of their low-end model? I don't recall. I'm not going to speak.
I don't know. No clue.
Out of line.
It's 40,000.
But
is it 40? Really?
Yes.
Oh.
And that's nothing, because the Chevy Volt is 40,000.
Yeah.
So you're talking about something that's competitive, and let's remember that you don't need one of these supercharging stations in order to do it. You can do it at home. It's just not the high speed,
right?
Charge that you get. It's like if I use my iPhone and I'm in the car and I use the car charger, it takes about 3 times longer than it does if I just plug it into the wall.
Yeah.
With,
remember, Tesla is the only company that's made it. All the other electric car companies have failed. And it's a very tough area to compete.
And let's also remember, as far as the stock goes, there's still a huge short position in it, of non-believers that supports the stock.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. They say
3 months ago, this stock was $50.
Uh-huh.
It's $125.
Wow. Yeah.
And at 50, it was up from 20.
Wow. Well, it's...
Keep in mind that 3 months ago, oil prices were like $85.90, and now they're 107, headed to 115.
Yeah.
And that's if we don't have a crisis.
Oh, God.
There's just a tremendous shortage of the good stuff.
Yeah.
The light, sweet crude. So what the industry Craig is in tremendous demand.
Sure.
Tremendous need of people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Mike, we just looked up on the internet. Currently, there are 144 refineries in the United States, and 10 of those are idle right now.
Wow.
And so that's 30 refineries lost since I had last checked the number.
There's a lot that you can man. You can staff a lot of refineries.
Yep.
Yeah.
They all need help.
Well, so the 134 are actually operating?
Yep, that's what it shows.
Yes.
Well, see, unless we're exporting tons of oil, I don't understand why we're so short. I just don't understand your business, Craig. I really don't.
Short of what? Short of people?
No, just short of oil for the United States.
It's just
because the oil companies are saying we have severe shortages.
Well, there's a shortage of the sweet crude.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of refined capacity. There's the challenge we have right now in the United States is there are more than adequate supplies of raw crude. It's just not in the same places the refineries are.
Yeah. That which gets you right back to the pipelines that you were talking about, and yeah.
Infrastructure. Yep.
But there's a shortage of the sweet crude, the kind that refines the best.
That's correct.
Yeah, this has been the problem.
Craig, you're talking about some pretty basic stuff that you think that, when we discovered oil, which was in the 1800s, that someone would have figured it out in that span of 140 or 150 years?
Well, there have been a lot of really, really fascinating developments in the processing of crude oil and gas over these last 100 years plus, and we continue to have the idea that we can move away from petrochemicals, and I just will submit to you that crude oil and petrochemicals are a key part of our everyday life. They touch just about everything we do. Our telephones are made of plastics. The crude plastics are made from natural. The feedstock is natural gas.
Right.
If you look at even the garment industry.
Well, sure.
There's a lot of usage there too. I mean, what do you think polyester comes from?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. Well, Craig, you've got to keep us informed on how you're going, and as far as your battles with the feds, just to try and get folks into the country. And I know you had talked about it, and it's funny. I ran into somebody at the supermarket who was talking about your conversation last time you were on about veterans, and they were a veteran of Iraq, and they really appreciated your stance on hiring veterans. And can you talk about that a sec?
Well, we love being able to hire and put to work our American veterans, and frankly, any qualified American. But the veterans come out; they have great discipline, they learn quickly, and they very much appreciate the ability to go and work without being at risk. So,
let's talk about the stock for a minute. The symbol TXGE, and how many shares are outstanding?
I would have to check with the transfer agent. Something like 70 million currently outstanding.
70 million, and with a capitalization of about $5 million, seems very cheap. 5, 6.
We think it's a big opportunity. We're looking forward to it. We're excited about what's coming our way.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks so much for coming on for us.
Well, thank you for the time. Y'all have a great day.
All right, Craig. Hey, good luck to you.
Thanks.
Okay. Craig Crawford.
Hey, I just want to mention something that happened over the weekend.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. When you pull up to a gas station, how do you pay?
Credit card?
Either
okay.
credit
do you
card
look
or
at the
cash.
price?
Oh, sure. The difference in price between cash and credit card?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That they started that here about 6 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here, I mean, there's a station here that there are a bunch of stations that don't take any credit or debit, and then there are some that take them, but they jack the price. So the price change is about 7 cents a gallon, which converts into the difference in taking cash and paying the 1.78% for credit cards. So I was in New York over the weekend. I drove down, and I stopped on the way on I-95 at one of those big truck stop type things.
Yeah. And
paid $4.05 a gallon for gas with a debit card. They didn't have a difference between cash and credit.
Right.
Because I know that on the highway, they just really take you to task. And, of course, 30 miles later, I drove past a station that was $4.34. So,
geez.
Not a big deal, but okay.
Oh, man.
So I'm in New York, and I'm right around the corner from where I was staying, and I never buy gas there. So I'm driving by, and I look at the tank, and I still have a half a tank, and I say, oh, $3.85?
Really?
So I pull in. Fortunately, I looked at the pump. This is unbelievable. You will not believe it. $3.85 self-serve cash. What do you think the credit price was?
$4.25.
And credit or debit card price was from $3.85.
$4.25 or $4.35.
Exactly. 60, 55 or 60 cents.
I love it.
And normally I pull up at one of these stations, I just assume it's a nickel or a little bit more. But when you fill up a car like that, it's like they're stealing 3 gallons from you.
Yeah.
And full serve credit.
Oh, forget that.
Was for $65.
Sure.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And you drive by the station and you see $3.85 for regular, and you pull in.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody really. Do you take a receipt after you use a credit or debit card, Greg?
I don't normally.
No, nor do I. So you don't even really look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, what a
You're
scam
right.
that is.
Oh. I will now. Holy,
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we need to do. Let's do our Rule 17B disclosure
Yep.
to make the SEC happy that
Yep.
that Princeton owns TXGE shares, probably about 100,000 shares, and we are entering into a contract with them in which we're supposed to get a couple 100,000 shares and a little bit of cash as they get it, probably $500 a month or something small. But we're expecting to get started with them.
Very cool.
Because, I think Texas Gulf has a great potential if they can find the labor.
Yeah.
Finding the help in America. They talk about unemployment. There is a shortage of skills.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Michael, thanks for setting up the show next week. Again, for folks just tuning in, Mike King will be christening his brand new office in Singapore next week.
And I'll call in if I can.
Okay, what's the
What
time?
I'll run into.
What's the time difference? About 13, 14 hours?
Oh yes, like right now, it's about 8 o'clock at night over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
8
Okay.
or 9, maybe 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
They're about. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not quite what it would be in Australia, but it's close. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. We'll have fun there, and again, Charles, we've got the conference call tomorrow.
Right.
And how do you join the conference call?
I will put out a text in the morning to remind people, but you call in 712-432-0075, and the PIN number is 614426. And if you forget it or you need to look it up, you can just go to the Princeton Research site, and it's mentioned on the front page of the market letter every week.
All right, guys. Hey, well, have a good one. Mike, safe travels to Singapore, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks. And Charles, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Greg.
All right. Charles Moskowitz and I will be with you next week right here on WPSL. Port St. Lucie, Mike King, good luck in your brand new Singapore office.